Back in late 2009, a small group called B&B Finishes released a Legend of Zelda fan movie, The Hero of Time, loosely based on Ocarina of Time, loosely written in general, loosely acted and directed. It's not much. Being a $4,500 fan production will do that. Opinions on this film vary greatly. I did review it for my old Let's Play channel, FATLPs, and if you're an old enough follower to have seen that, you know mine are low. But most of this film's flaws stem from it being a low-budget fan production, which I can't begrudge too much. What really sinks this film are two key problems: a lack of purpose, and a much-needed lack of dialogue. The movie begins with its own version of the creation of the Triforce, and it's one of its better executed ideas. With just one picture and a narration, they set up a legend that affects the entire film. When evil arises, the goddesses will send 3 guardians to fight it. Doing a lot with a little, it's a good start. They never quite get it right again. We jump immediately to a woman and her baby being chased through the forest. I think this one shot filled their quota for convincing acting in the first half. She then meets the silhouette of a mannequin. Really, even without seeing her face, you can tell she doesn't give a shit. The stranger takes the baby and leaves the mother to collapse in exhaustion, so the evil Ganondorf can catch up to her and kill her. Starting here, I'll be frequently going back and forth between the film and Ocarina of Time to discuss the changes they made, and not to simply get mad that they made changes. In adaptation, changes will happen. It's simply a matter of if they benefit the story or not. We're going to find that most of them don't, but so far these actually do. In Ocarina of Time, Link's true heritage is a surprise, and you don't learn it until the middle third of the game. Here it's one of the first things we learn because it's a central theme. As we'll soon see, Link's core motivation is to find out who he really is. Since Link is a character and not a player avatar, he needs his own reason to act for us to give a shit about his adventure. We also don't see Link's mother die in the game, or necessarily learn why or because of whom. We're just told she was injured, left her baby in the care of the Kokiri, and then succumbed to her wounds. It's never implied that Ganondorf killed her, but here we're briefly introduced to him by seeing him do it. We see the monster he really is, and thus we see his place as this great evil that the Guardians must fight. So combined with the different mythology in the intro, they're already 3 for 3 for good changes that benefit the story. And these last 2 they did entirely without dialogue. So where does it go wrong? This doofus. This is our Link, played by one of the film's core staff, David Blaine. No, not that one. Blaine's performance is special. They have Link talk in this film, which is a dangerous tightrope to walk that they fall off within seconds. You know how angry people were that Darth Vader was reduced to this whiny little shit? They seem to find that inspiring.
Is it a secret? Must we pretend that we are family when we're not even from the same land?
Occasionally it seems like he's trying for Cary Elwes, but it always makes its way back to Hayden Christensen. Blaine almost carries the film in how accidentally funny his performance is. And I noticed he seems to operate in 3 particular modes of acting. 1, not, which is when he's speaking.
If you're not to help me understand my dreams, then who am I to turn to?
2, clumsy dope, which is when he's walking. And 3, confused by everything. I feel like Blaine is our eyes into the production of this film. Listen to this dialogue.
I do not help you, my son, because I do not know how to. I do not have the answers you are looking for.
Everyone in the film sounds like that. This weird, hokey fantasy, no contractions, over-enunciated woodwork. Looking back on the game's dialogue, it's written in a straightforward modern tense. Only the Great Deku Tree says anything faux fantasy. Here, everyone speaks like director Joel Moosh wanted Lord of the Rings, and none of the actors knew what that was. All of the focus they could have put into the acting, they had to put into just remembering the crap they have to say. None of it has meaning to them. And thus, David Blaine is Link. That is the face of a man who does not know what he's saying or why he's saying it.
It never changes.
If Blaine wasn't involved in the entire production, I would have thought he was just hired for the chassis and the trunk, if you get my drift. The camera loves his ass. He certainly wasn't hired for his lustrous blonde hair. That's being played by the worst wig in Atlanta. We're introduced to Saria, who in the game is Link's best friend, but in the film she's his adoptive mother. Their relationship in the game is way more understated than you think it is, so this change doesn't hurt anything. What does hurt is the talking. The talking and talking and talking about Link not really being a Kokiri.
When will you tell me who I am?
This is basic filmmaking shit. It is far more interesting to show how Link feels separated from the Kokiri, rather than just saying it out loud. When we do actually meet the Kokiri, we barely meet them at all. We just walk past them as they goof off in the background. To be fair to the film, the game also failed to show this. It just has Mito being a dickhead, and then it tells you Link doesn't fit in, even though everyone likes Link and no one likes Mito. There's still better ways to convey it. They do show one thing. Link has recurring dreams of a beautiful girl being locked away, and we briefly see that dream.
She was beautiful.
Sorry, he dreams of a beautiful girl, which nicely sets up the meeting with Zelda later on. This is also a good point to mention that the music is gorgeous. I can tell they're using MIDI instruments, but it's still nicely composed. It manages to sound rich, and it conveys emotions the actors can't, so credit for that. Sound design otherwise is fucked. I don't think they used a boom mic, or really any mic. It sounds like it was recorded directly to the camcorder. Good luck keeping up with all that exposition when you can't hear any of it. Saria spits into Link's wig and they head back to the village. One thing that's not conveyed very well is if the Kokiri are eternally children, like in the game. Saria's actor is obviously an adult, but everyone else they hired was a kid. Probably didn't want to deal with child actors for longer than this. At least the kids are having fun. And drinking beer, I think. Link and Saria's treehouse is also our first glimpse at the film's use of CG. Getting it out of the way, no, it's never convincing, you can always tell. That's one of the things related to the budget that I'm not going to worry about too much. I'm actually going to go the other way. I don't know if this was intentional or just how it turned out, but because the CG isn't photorealistic, it doesn't quite fall into the uncanny valley. It more comes across like a painting, and I almost found myself liking the look of it. On its own, it looks nice, it just sticks out hard against everything else. That night, Link has the dream again. Good, show it. Show the turmoil. Because if it were like any other scene in the movie, Link would just go up to Saria the next morning and say, "I could not sleep. I had the dream again. And she was still beautiful. It never changes." The next morning, we waste some time frolicking and limping through the forest, getting right up into that crack until the movie decides it wants to continue. Something you probably missed at this point is that Link works as a carpenter under a one Master Bazaar. You missed this because it gets said once, gets referenced once or twice later, and that's it. We never see this guy, and we never see Link working for him, because we don't need character establishment or world building. We need tripping over your own leg.
Please, I'm looking for Link of the Kokiri.
A guardian of the Great Deku Tree reveals that the tree is dying, and his last wish is to speak to Link about his dreams. This guy's acting choice was, "Link hurt my back, guess I'm tired now." Also, I don't know what this kid is doing, but it's probably the funniest thing in the movie.
Not in 15 years has the Great Tree asked for any Kokiri by name.
This scene of Saria being excited to meet the Deku Tree is indicative of the editing in the entire film. The cuts are all over the place, and they all jump between obviously different takes. This whole time I've been talking, I haven't made my own cuts at all. It only gets more distracting when Link actually starts fighting. 50 minutes from now. We meet the Great Deku Tree, who doesn't look bad. He does look more like a tree that grew a face on accident, but it works. And we get a cute scene of Link being impatient, waiting for him to wake up.
Welcome.
The Deku Tree reveals that Link is destined to save the princess, and is therefore in great danger.
What are you talking about? Why am I in danger?
Still love that read.
You say I'm in danger, but by Hylian standards, I'm nothing but a child. How am I supposed to begin a journey like that?
Like what?
Like that.
Carry on.
Must I tell you what you already know?
No! And then the world was so evil that the Deku Tree died. They don't even try to save him. We don't want to blow our excitement load too early. Link prepares to leave the village, and we have the film's version of the famous bridge scene. Now, in the game, it's a subtle, almost haunting scene, where Saria gives Link her ocarina and assures him that they'll always be friends. In the movie, since they're mother and son, they try to have much more emotion and drama. But we have no connection to either of these two or their lives here, and these actors can't sell any of it, so it just ends up awkward. Also, instead of an ocarina, Saria gives Link Master Bazaar's dagger. Again, they say there's a special story behind it, but I think you get the fucking idea by now. As for the dagger itself, you know what?
It's not much.
Pin that to the wall. We're gonna come back to that later. Instead, let's bring back that other big problem, the film's lack of purpose. Nothing quite exemplifies that like the next 10 minutes. First, Link, of course, gets lost in the Lost Woods. He comes across the guy from earlier, who turns out to be a thief, and they have some amusing back and forth, and an almost impressive stunt with the dagger.
Oh! You going to run me through with the sheath still on the blade?
Then Link goes into the dark part of the forest, and he's fine. Second, Link makes his way to Hyrule Castle Town, and boy do they milk this outside shot. There's a number of wacky hijinks that happen, but mainly Link just hangs out until he hears Princess Zelda singing. Then he goes off to find her. Ultimately, the last 10 minutes could have been drastically shortened, and a lot of the film feels like that. It feels like in an effort to have a lot of fan service, they waste the film's running time, and all the interesting events are backloaded to the final quarter. Any damn way. The castle town was filmed pretty blatantly at a Renaissance festival, but that at least gives it the benefit of people being around. Also gives Link some wicked eyeshadow. Not sure why they did that. He looks incredibly tired. The first dickhead he meets is Honest Ivan, an obnoxious merchant who sells him the bow.
Oh, you've got a bow!
Well, that's one cute joke. Also, yes, they have rupees in this world, but their currency is coins. Can only afford the one, I suppose. The next person he meets is Child Abductor Talon.
Hey, you're not from around here, are you?
But I can help you stay for a long time. This guy reads his lines in the most uncomfortable monotone. In this, Talon runs the Epona Inn, wah wah, and he invites Link to stay for a while. I love David Blaine's reactions to this guy. It's like even he realizes how creepy Talon's voice and dialogue is.
A daughter about your age.
What happened to her? Link goes to the inn, goes in the wrong door, and gets knocked out by Malon, along with being strangely satisfying at this point. This serves as a transition to the proper introduction of Ganondorf.
17 years since we've shown our faces and the faces of our people in this kingdom. The Hylians foolishly welcome us as dignified guests.
He's, got something on his face. Joking aside, Adam Boyer as Ganondorf is by far the best actor in the movie. Even before I looked up what else he'd been in, which is some pretty prominent films and TV in recent years, I could tell he's an actual professional actor. He's got gravitas, he's got a cool voice, he carries himself like a cunning villain ready to take over a kingdom. The makeup is off, and he has some trouble standing still, but when it comes down to it, none of Ganondorf's problems come from the acting. They're all in the script. He doesn't do anything! We cut to him occasionally and he threatens his subordinates. And there's some of the more entertaining parts of the film thanks to Adam Boyer. But you never get the sense that he's going to take over. Like everyone before him, Ganon just talks, and his dialogue gets exhaustingly verbose. His lines get so long you can almost see him having to read them off a cue card just off camera. He's never quite looking at his lackey. Ganondorf and his servant Tomaz exposit for a bit about killing the king. In this story, the king has the Triforce of Power, making him one of the chosen guardians. I don't think the film realizes it, but this is probably one of its cleverer changes. In the game, Ganondorf gets the Triforce when Link opens the way to the Sacred Realm, but because he's imbalanced, he only gets the Triforce of Power. It's an accident caused by the player. In this, since Ganondorf has to take it from the king, his takeover is more planned out and diabolical. The king isn't just the guy he kills and replaces, he's an important target. And he doesn't even care about the other two pieces, he knows what he wants. Of course, this is all in hindsight. Plays out like shit. But it was a good idea. All this exposition does drive home the risk we run if a big-budget Zelda production did happen. We could end up with Lord of the Rings. We'll probably end up with Last Airbender. Link wakes up and meets Malon for real. Melanie Taylor as Malon is one of the less awful actors, if only because her face moves. I get the sense that Link and Malon are supposed to form a connection, but it's far too brief. We cut immediately to more Ganondorf exposition, then it's the next morning, and Malon's just left a note saying her dad is a drunken asshole who got lost somewhere, so I'm out of this shithole. We then get more of Link sitting around while the editing flies around the Renaissance Festival. I like them trying to hide this fact by flipping the video, but it didn't quite work. Some of the CG animations look nice for its low budget, but then you get cases like this guy. We also see outside the castle town a few dozen times too many. Link finally hears Zelda singing and sets off to find her. But before he goes, let's appreciate David Blaine's physical acting some more, shall we? It's like watching a puppy walk into a wall. Link reaches Mooncrest Castle. Alright. Guarded by dutiful cardboard. He sneaks his way into the castle and tries desperately to avoid the guards. It's a cute homage to the stealth section of the game, and these guards' peripherals are about as bad. But it ends abruptly. Link is saved by the film's much less intimidating version of Impa, played by Michelle Keighley, who is apparently the female version of David Blaine.
I do not believe that's a suitable reason to be beating the poor boy.
You carry the mark of the Triforce of Courage.
You do not know what the mark is?
Why am I in danger?
No, Michelle. More offended by everything. Impa sees the mark of the Triforce and takes Link to Princess Zelda, played by Hannah Fearman. They weren't too bothered with physical accuracy. Or maybe her blonde wig was even worse. To her credit, Fearman is actually English, so her accent isn't distracting. But she's no better at putting any passion or, human emphasis in her dialogue. The film's use of green screen and ADR is starting to fail it too. It's like the editors knew the music was far more impressive than the story, because I can't hear a word they're saying. This is supposed to be Zelda and Link connecting over the Triforce and falling in love out of nowhere, but good luck gathering that. We get the film's version of the window scene, and it's only a little sillier than in the game. That's right, Ganondorf plays scare chords with his eyeballs. Link runs off, says goodbye to Talon in a scene that's far more awkward than you'd think, and then we're back to Ganondorf standing around being evil.
Lord Ganondorf.
I could only get 2 Bauhaus reunion tickets.
I am very put out by his delay.
Switch to chorus or flange, you horse's ass.
Our plan is going perfectly, my lord.
I should hope so, Tomas. For your sake.
Lon Waitman is Tomas, everyone, with the single best second of acting in the movie. We cut back to the castle, where we see a recurring theme, the CG effects being weirdly off-angle. Link meets up with Zelda, currently being engulfed by the sun, and they engage in the film's central recurring theme. Talking and talking and talking!
Forgive me. I know nothing of this kingdom.
You're in fucking luck! Nothing they say matters in the end. We do cut briefly to Tomas poisoning the king's drink, and really anything involving Ganondorf attacking the castle would be far more worth our time, but instead they continue to waste it on dialogue. The film just feels pointless.
I've had dreams.
Then this came out and, well, a guard suddenly bursts into the room with an arrow in his chest, and a voice that's noticeably not his.
His warriors are all over the castle.
My father! What about my father?
Dead.
Ganondorf takes the Triforce of Power. Link takes a kiss from Zelda as she mourns her father's death, you monster, and Impa takes Zelda somewhere safe. But not before Zelda tosses Link an ocarina. Remember that dagger from earlier? Unpin that. We're gonna bring it back now. In the game, when Link leaves Kokiri Forest, Saria gives him her ocarina. It's not just an important personal keepsake that symbolizes their friendship. Playing the ocarina is a core mechanic of the game. By the time Zelda gives you the Ocarina of Time and you go to the Temple of Time, you could have already heard and played a quarter of the songs in the game. In the film, Saria gives Link a dagger, which he uses to humiliate a guy, and then we never see it again. We have no reason to believe that Link knows how to play this ocarina. And you know what? He doesn't. He just stands like a jackass in front of the church trying to figure out the melody. He plays Saria's song first, which is cute, but that just emphasizes the film's preference for cute homages over a thought-out story. Finally, Link remembers the melody that Zelda sang earlier, miraculously gets the notes right, and we're treated to the most obviously off-angle green screen in the film. Budget aside, these baffle me the most out of any of the mistakes in the film, because that's something you could just turn and then get it right. The Master Sword does look like something bought at a toy store, but I kind of buy it. It looks like a sword you might have seen in the NES games. And no, Link's face does not help with the lack of tension in this scene. Link draws the sword and is sealed away in the spirit realm. Ganondorf takes his chance and summons its dark forces for his own. Link then awakens 5 years later, with Ganon's rule long underway. The Sage of Time appears to him, and tells him what he must do. Find the rest of the Sages of Element, that is such fanfic phrasing, and use their power to seal Ganon away once and for all. You might have noticed I left out an important piece of information. Why Link was sealed away. It's okay. I think the film forgot to. I think it's implied later that Ganondorf seals him away when he walks in, but mostly they forgot it. In the game, Link is sealed away for 7 years because when he pulls the sword, he's a kid. He can't awaken as the hero of time until he's physically an adult. In the film, he's sealed away for 5 years and doesn't age a day because the gods are dicks! Link wanders off and comes across Talon's homestead. Oddly, Link doesn't seem to recognize Talon, whom he just saw that morning in his mind, while Talon hasn't seen him for 5 years but seems to recognize him. Talon invites Link inside, and they have a hugely uncomfortable dinner conversation. We learn that on the day Ganon took over, Malon was killed. And no, there's not really a good reason why. Link didn't know Malon at all, but somehow her death is just the motivation he needs to become a killer himself. The next morning, a pair of Gyarados hassle the girls, and an hour into the movie, we finally have a fight scene. It pulls the cheap trick of cutting between shots constantly to hide how silly it really is.
Get your hands off her!
I'll give David Blaine this. He is better in the fight scenes than when he's talking. He still runs like an idiot, but he actually looks determined, and the stunt work is passable. It's still bizarre that Link suddenly turns into the Punisher. I wish there was a scene of him finding Malon's grave, sitting down by it and saying, "I'm tired, Red." Talon gives Link his horse Epona and a shield as thanks.
But you owe me nothing.
But I'm taking him anyway. He makes his way to Kakariko Village, which somehow has split personality backgrounds. Every shot alternates between a CG village and a fence. We're introduced to this film's version of Sheik.
You're not excused from the law.
I don't care what the law says. Lord Ganon needs this money about as much as my chickens do.
I'll take those.
I don't think the term character assassination is fair, but this is a change that's for the worse in multiple ways, all of which should have given her away to Ganon years ago. Number one, our introduction to Sheik in the game is as a mysterious nobody. We don't know who this person is, but they're our only clue as to what we need to do to stop Ganon. Our introduction here is her screaming at a guard. Number two, this disguise is pathetic. In the game, Zelda disguises as Sheik using magic, so nothing about Sheik's appearance suggests that they're Zelda. Here, you can see right through that mask, and Hannah Fierman has some distinctively big eyes. It's also just funny how it bobs up and down as she talks. Number three, even if they were to keep pretending that we couldn't tell immediately, right after her introductory scene, she takes off the mask. Revealing that to the audience kills any tension or surprise you could have had when she later reveals herself to Link. I feel like they did that because we already know that Sheik is Zelda, but it doesn't serve the film. If it weren't for the plot twists, Ocarina of Time would be a very milquetoast story. As a different version of what I said earlier, it's not that they made changes to the story and characters, it's that they changed them to tedious and purposeless versions of themselves. There are far worse things in the film than Sheik. Hannah Fierman does angry asshole slightly better than wispy princess failing to cry. But seeing as Sheik is my favorite character in the game franchise, I personally find her the most disappointing. The most embarrassing is Link. Why am I in danger? Sheik reveals that Zelda is dead, and Link must find and rescue the Sage of Fire. He wanders off to Death Mountain, shown actively erupting with lava, so you know it's a good idea. They try their best to make this creek and green screen look like a real volcano. It's never convincing, but I do like the filters they put on the sky. Gives it a 300 look, but I don't know how they missed this mistake. The foreground and background move independently from each other. Also, I think David Blaine just looked into the camera. Eventually, Link is caught drinking out of the toilet of Daryu, the film's version of Darunia, and a pretty dopey replacement for the Gorons. There was no way they could replicate how the Gorons actually looked, so large East Asian dude. Tone Nguyen as Daryu is pretty bad, but entertainingly bad, like David Blaine. Their conversations are so awkward and unnatural that I just start laughing out of pure tension. Even funnier is how Daryu just watches Link hurt himself. Link takes a nasty fall and lands in water paint, so he and Daryu have a heart-to-heart about racial harmony, complete with bobblehead syndrome and an awkward vocal fade-out.
They're afraid my car.
It's like even the camera got tired of them talking.
Maybe you're right.
Suddenly, Daryu forgets that he lives on a volcano and needs Link to save him from styrofoam. Now his blood slave, Daryu helps Link up the slight slant that he's walking up anyway. In a weird way, I feel like these two worked better as a pair than Link and Zelda or Link and Sheik. When they were talking, they weren't just giving exposition. They felt like people for a minute. And here, they're actually doing something together. So of course we're never going to see Daryu again. Link figures out that Daryu, as the Prince of the Gorons, has the royal blood that will open the way to the Sage. One slice and the blood debt is repaid, so goodbye Daryu. Inside the volcano we find the film's single worst piece of CG, the dragon. I won't harp on it too long, like I mentioned, the budget isn't what kills this film. But we do see some pretty cool looking CG monsters later in a short montage, so I don't know why this gets its own scene. That said, it's not a terrible fight, even if Link just sort of bumblefucks his way to winning. I'd even say the volcano itself looks great, almost like something you'd see in a video game. Dragon defeated, Link climbs up to the Sage of Fire, who tackles him to the ground and terrifies him by actually having human emotion and charisma, and being weirdly sexually aggressive. The Sage of Fire, played by Kate Bush apparently, gives Link a nice little button on his sword, as well as the most accidentally funny attempt at a magic spell in the film.
You must always remember that like the fire that forges a blade, you must temper your courage with wisdom.
Man, you can tell when the director intervened. There's an unnatural cadence that every person has when they have to speak this fake fantasy nonsense. And nobody shows that quite like Carla Jean Davis as the Sage of Fire. Whatever acting she was doing at first, she had to drop just to remember her terrible lines.
Tell me, lad, whose side do you propose to be on? First you free me from my oppressors and then threaten me? This weapon will aid you in battle, but brute force alone will not save you from the evils that lie ahead.
Anyway, with button and sword, Link returns to an ecstatic Sheik, even more inconsistent backgrounds, and a weirdly shaky camera.
For the princess I failed to protect,
dude, don't just announce that you suck like that. To the film's credit, they do one thing with Sheik that I always wished was in the game, ever since I saw this lying-ass poster as a kid. Sheik actually fights with Link. They ride off on a short montage where they fight boss monsters and rescue the sages. Well, they fight giant versions of regular game enemies, because the game's bosses were too interesting. And we never see the sages. But it's a cool sequence. Some of it is goofy, naturally. Link staring proudly at his sword is hilarious. But then they also give Sheik a katana. That would be cool and clever if she ever used it. The biggest downside is it's less than 3 minutes. The best parts of this film are its shortest parts, and all the rest is endless dialogue. For a film that took 4 years to make and 2 to shoot, someone at some point needed to unwrite the script. What's weird is the last place they visit is Kokiri Forest, but we don't learn anything about Saria or the Kokiri. You'd think an important element of Link's motivation would come back, but as you probably noticed by now, the film's long forgotten about it. As Link and Sheik sit down for a randomly intimate moment, the sage's powers combine into the Master Sword, and they are now ready to take on Ganon. Sad that the only black dude in the movie is right here getting his ass kicked. The Gyarados are dicks. This one just need a little girl in the groin. His death face is amazing though. Wow, Link actually looks determined. A rare moment of reaction. We see how Ganon and Tomaz have changed. Tomaz looks about 20 years older, while Ganon defies age by shaving his sideburns and dyeing his hair black.
Beware, my lord. He is quite the aggressive one. The courage in his spirit is stirring.
And it seems in those 5 years, Lon Waitman fell victim to the directing. Pity. Link and Sheik take on the guards in a surprisingly exciting sword fight. Sure, it cuts between shots every second, and you can tell they're play fighting. Link's sword noticeably never connects with the guards when he kills them, but they at least swing like they're trying to hit each other. Sheik's part is way more embarrassing. It feels like Fearman never practiced with her sword, so she's just dicking around and trying to look like a ninja. Eventually, Adam Boyer gets bored and decides Ganon should get involved. That is the face of a broken man.
Link. No more death and destruction can be risked here.
End this fucking movie! Link hauls ass out of there while Sheik gets herself captured. And Ganon confronts Link for their final showdown. Now, I want you folks' opinion on something. What face is this? Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, or diarrhea?
Hey, Adam Boyer!
Joking aside, this is a pretty cool fight scene. It feels less like play fighting, and Ganon strikes an intimidating presence. Not only did there need to be less talking and more doing in this movie, there just plain needed to be more Adam Boyer. Ganon gets the upper hand, giving him enough time to barf darkness. I take it back. That's the funniest attempt at magic. The fake painted blood does come back, looking more like plasticine this time. That said, David Blaine can convincingly act fucked up and pissed off. Link uses the power of the sages to gain the upper hand and deliver a fatal stab. For whatever reason, that wasn't good enough, so we get this ridiculous shit. Having had all the floating swords and leapfrog he can handle, Ganon is sent hurtling back into the Sacred Realm. Link, his ass thoroughly kicked, stumbles back to the Temple of Time, again successfully showing determination, while failing to show the guards outside the temple in every other shot.
This is the property of the Kingdom of the Gerudo!
Not the Gyarados, the Gerudo! This section is odd. The climax is over, Ganon is dead, but we still have this small fight scene so that Link can save Sheik, get more wounded, and decapitate a guy. Christ. If you wanted gratuity, you shouldn't have waited till you were dragging your own corpse to the finish line movie. Link begins to succumb to his wounds, and finally the film decides we should fulfill his non-existent character motivation. So let's finally answer that question.
I left my homeland to find out who I was. The cost for an answer was unbearable. Who am I, Sheik?
Friend to the friendless, loving to the unloved, and a hero to a land who will always be indebted to you for your courage, Link.
Let's break this down. I know I'm not a Kokiri, so who am I? Where do I really come from? Fuck if I know.
Go save the princess and maybe you'll find out.
You've got a Mark II. Guess I love you. Oh, well, here I go to the future. Death, death, murder, murder, killed him. Who am I, Sheik? Where do I really come from? A hero. And I don't know. I stand by my statement that at the start of the film, they made good changes that benefited a film narrative. $4,500 well spent, I hope. Sheik drags Link to the sword's pedestal, which sends him back to the past. I do like this, because in the game, Zelda sends Link back to his childhood arbitrarily. Here, it's because he's gonna fucking die. Realizing the world is saved, Link rushes to the castle through the guards, who quickly stop following him. And he returns to Princess Zelda in one last homage to the ending of the game. And she's very happy to see it end. As am I. Look, people. Low-budget fan films do not have to be terrible. They can have interesting new ideas. They can have impressive visuals. They can have talented actors. This film had those, occasionally. But what it didn't have was purpose. They tried to give more depth to Ocarina of Time's story, but they only did it with reams of awfully written, awfully spoken dialogue. They failed to build a connection to the characters, or to follow through on Link's motivation, no matter how hard they try to work in drama. Not that you can understand what they're saying half the time. And if they had just written the dialogue like how people actually talk, you know, like the game did, I imagine the actors could have managed basic human emotion. There's also an argument to be made that Ocarina of Time was one of the least interesting games they could have adapted. It's a classical tale at its core, major plot twists aside, so adapting it straight just leaves you with a cliched story. The game's somewhat episodic in nature with how you go from location to location, and narrowing that down to one film requires taking out the vast majority of what happens. Then you're left with a couple goofy montages to make up most of the action, and the rest of the film is the tedious story. And even then, they spend far too much time reading that story to you instead of letting it play out. And I know they only had a piggy bank's worth of budget. Do a radio drama then. This is film. With pictures. Show them. There was a rumor for a while about a Legend of Zelda Netflix series, and if a real production were to happen, that would probably be the best way to go about it. You could flesh out the people and the locations in their own episodes. The Hero of Time, though, no matter what the cost, there was a severe lack of common sense. They tried their best, but in the most unnecessary of places. The Hero of Time gets a much longer review than it deserves. Out of 12. I want to thank my buddy John from Infamous Films for watching this with me. He helped me put my thoughts together, and he contributed a lot of good points himself. He also does film reviews, which you should all check out. He does a series called Franchise Fatigue, where he looks at increasingly worsening film franchises. He's currently in the middle of the Fantastic Four movies, so yeah, he's gonna need your support. But I leave you with a question. Have there been any really good Zelda fan movies or series? That doesn't include Legend of Zelda Book of the Traitor, written by me, drawn by Laura Cox. Link in the description below. And I don't mean Flash, there have been plenty of fan animations. I mean live-acted productions. Hero of Time got the most attention, but if you've been on YouTube long enough, you know many people have given it a go. If you've seen a fan video you really dug, tell me about it in the comments. As for me, I would say that answer is yes. With qualifiers. There is certainly The Legend of Neil, a spoof of the first NES Zelda from some of the creators and friends of the guild. It's crass, but pretty funny and well put together from what I remember. But there's another one you may or may not know about. Way back in the early days of YouTube, a friend of the group Obsession Studios uploaded their parody movie, The Legend of Link. Unlike The Hero of Time, Legend of Link knew exactly what it was. A goofy, anachronistic, loving spoof made for fun by a bunch of high schoolers. Some parts they play straight, like the attacks on the castle, played here by a park fountain fixture. Others they just do whatever the hell comes to their minds, like what goes on in the castle, played here by someone's house. Not everything about it works, naturally. There's some embarrassing pop culture references in there, but it's way more fun. You get a Silent Link who's funny on purpose, and you get a hammy Ganondorf who does shit, is hilarious, and is kind of threatening. I rewatched it recently, and despite it being 12 years old and just predating Twilight Princess, it still holds up. It doesn't beg you to suspend your disbelief, which somehow helps to sweep you along for the ride anyway. So skip overwrought, underperforming nonsense. Give silliness a try.
You need to see Talon. Well, Talon's over there in his milk bar. But I don't know why you go to a bar for milk!
All that remains is for me to say, press all the buttons if you think I deserve it, and give me your money and I'll do things for you. Ow.